a rotten hooker.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday. I'm a very religious person.
I thought I was a good Christian.
The very lies the serpent told to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of This Non-Religious Life. Today is Friday, March 9th. We're coming at you again from the Zombie Popcorn headquarters. This is Bob. With me as always is Jason.
Hello! Yes.
And fresh off his whirlwind tour of Michigan is Ken.
And Canada. Hey,
And
everybody.
Canada. I didn't realize you were in Canada too.
But that's
Yeah,
why,
that's actually why I went up there. I had a wedding to go to.
and he's via cell phone today.
And hence why I couldn't get, there was a delay on my texts until I got back into the US of A.
We're only getting Ken back in stages.
I know. It's just like the teleporter's messed up. There's a fly in there. Or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Right now, I'm actually just an ethereal being, and you can only hear my voice. Next week, hopefully, I'll be corporeal, and you'll be able to see me.
So we had a good episode last week. We brought Matt back as a guest to fill in your ever so scripturally sounded shoes.
You're
Yeah,
good
yeah.
on shoes.
I actually saw that when I got back, and I was like, hey, they did an episode without me. Oh.
Well, the conversation before the
um,
show is like, we can totally do this show without him. We don't
that's
need
right.
him.
That's the lesson here,
We
Ken.
don't
You're
ever-
totally replaceable. No, you are not.
Just kidding.
Yeah, no. I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but it looked like a good show. So, congratulations, guys.
It was good, but I don't know about you, but I go back and I listen to the shows again at least once, and it's hard to do because I hate the sound of my own voice, but I do it anyway.
Oh,
and then
I know how you feel.
I
You
think
hate the sound of his
further
voice, too?
upon the things that we talk about, and one of the things that stuck out at me in that episode is and there may be an apologetic name for this problem, and I was asking Matt about like how he reconciles a world where if the only way into heaven is to know Christ, how could you live in a world where there's people who will never know Christ because of isolation or primitive conditions and that kind of thing. And we sort of kicked that around a little bit, but at the end, even Matt admitted that whatever he could say to himself, that it was an unsatisfactory answer. Like whatever apologetic spin was put on it, he said that he was never entirely satisfied with those answers as well.
Yeah, well, it's a disquieting question, right? I mean, not only about the people who live now, but what about every single person who lived before the advent of Christianity, right?
Yeah. Or
Like the millions upon millions of people.
Yeah. And and he had a sort of it was like kind of a special pleading answer where he's like, no, the Spirit goes out into the world and it's everywhere, and I was like, yeah, that's not good enough. And then he sort of fell down. He was like, well,
Catholics actually have an answer to the question that if you haven't heard of Jesus, you can still get into heaven, but at that point it's based on works. Like if you're a good person, like.
But he said that it wasn't based on
that was that was sort of where the discussion went, because we were talking about good works, and I was like, well, this is one of my big problems with faith, in that your ticket into heaven is not good works. It is accepting Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. And he was like, well, yeah, kind of, maybe, and I don't know. It gets vague.
Yeah, it depends on your stance in Christianity itself.
Of course it
Catholics are
does.
bigger on works. Protestants are bigger on faith.
But he did have the
both are justified in the
integrity
Bible.
to admit that even for him it was an unsatisfactory answer.
Yeah. It's unsatisfactory no matter where you stand on it, because it ultimately means the exclusion of millions from heaven, the ultimate reward. It means, and it's a dichotomy. You're either eternally rewarded or eternally punished.
Yeah. Well, and and another problem I have with that is that you're born into the world ruled by an all-knowing God, not just all-powerful, but all-knowing. So he knows that you're not going to ever make it.
I just got your text.
Like, so I don't know. For me, that was, when I started to think about these things, that was the question that sent the whole pack of cards tumbling, the whole house of cards, rather.
Oh yeah. It's like I said, it's disquieting, and there's no easy answer out of it. That's why that's why apologetics exists.
Or as we could plug next week's show a little bit, but as Dr. Price would say, apologetics is just spin doctoring.
It is spin doctoring. It's mental exercises to get around uncomfortable situations. I think the best apologetics example ever is the explanation of the Trinity. Like, in Orthodox Christianity, and by that I don't mean just Orthodox denominations, I mean like generally accepted Christian belief. The Trinity is nonsense. You can't explain it without coming off as something that is actually considered heresy. It's either you explain it one way and it sounds like modalism. You explain it another way, it sounds like tritheism. And those are both considered heretical views. So they have this thing where, the Son is not the Father and is not the Holy Spirit, but all three of them are God at the same time. And it's, whenever you try to put it into words and explain it, it sounds like something that they're like, no, it's not that. And so you have huge discourses on how to explain it, and it's just mental masturbation. It's them running in circles trying to explain something, and then trying to explain why it's not what you think it is based on the previous explanation.
I was going to say mental gymnastics, but masturbation works too.
Yeah, because I say masturbation because gymnastics does something. This is really just sort of self-fulfilling and pointless.
Is it? I'm sure it's like that ultimate circular logic about, like, how do I know it's true? Because it's in the Bible. How do I know the Bible is true? Because it tells me so. How do I know that that's true? Because it's in the Bible.
Jesus tells me this, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
For the Bible tells
It's
me
funny.
so.
When I was flying home, because I had a quick stop in Phoenix. If anyone's ever flown from the East Coast to the West Coast, they understand how far these plane trips are. I was on a plane for about 5 hours to get from Detroit to Phoenix for my layover, and you really have nothing to do. Like, I took an hour-long nap and still was bored out of my mind. But I was caught in kind of an awkward situation while flying, because I was proofing my book and reading journal articles in preparation for my next book. And the woman sitting right next to me, very sweet lady, very nice. Her and her husband were incredibly nice, great conversation partners. She was a Pentecostal minister.
Lovely.
And I had to explain source criticism in a way not to make the flight horribly unpleasant.
Yeah, for the next 4 hours.
Yeah. But it was good.
Had she ever heard of source criticism?
She had never heard of textual criticism with regard to the Bible, ever. which is crazy to me, because they do teach it in seminary now, but maybe not when she was younger.
Yeah, maybe. Pentecostal too. That's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I think Pentecostals are maybe the most fascinating to me of all the Protestant denominations. It's just that whole speaking in tongues thing, man.
Yeah, that's the one that baffles me.
Yeah.
I worked in a church that did that. It's pretty awesome.
That's awesome. I have a lot of Pentecostal churches around me out here, but they're all Spanish speaking, so I have no idea what's going on either way, whether they're speaking in tongues or not.
There was I think it was Reasonable Doubts or something. They had this whole bit where they played a whole string of people speaking in tongues, and, you know, just to give an example of what it was and how it sounded like gibberish, and the guy was like, "It's funny how they all sound Italian, though, isn't it?"
Do you know that whole movement was started around the turn of the 20th century with a woman who spoke in tongues, and this is in like the Midwest. I want to say it was in Missouri, in like 1904, and they said she was speaking Chinese for 4 days. Now, I immediately, like, little light goes off my head, and I think, how do people in the Midwest in 1904 know what Chinese sounds like?
Yeah.
You know, this is before television or really radio is big. Most of these people have probably never met a Chinese person in their life.
Well, that's why there was, what was it, Chai Wang King, Kung Fu, David Carradine.
Mm-hmm.
He traveled. Anyways.
Yeah, right. He was there, and he was like, "Oh."
He get beat
Chinese.
up a couple times, have a flashback.
Have a flashback, and then in that flashback, people learned.
Oh well. So last week was a pretty good show, but we missed you.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, did you
I know it was weird not doing a show for as long as it was, but that week I was up in Michigan. It flew by so fast. That was the fastest week I've ever had. I drove in 7 days. Two of them for traveling, for flying. So 5 days, I drove 917 miles in my rental car. Yeah,
that's a lot of windshield.
I was literally just driving all over the place.
I do love driving.
I haven't driven that much in a couple of years. Jason knows what I'm talking about.
So when you were in Michigan, did you run into any real live Muslims?
When I was in Michigan, yes, because I went to Dearborn a couple times. Which, for anyone who doesn't know, Dearborn is the largest group of Arabs outside of the Middle East, and I love their food. I ate so much falafel that I don't know what to do. Actually, I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't eat more falafel while I was there.
There was a
good falafel is really hard to find out on the West Coast.
There was a news story, and I want to say it came out of Michigan, and it was about a freedom from religion case where they were petitioning the local government to not start its business with an opening prayer, and I think that they had said that it was because they were saying like the population there is 85% Judeo-Christian. There's another 15% that's either Muslim or non-religious, mostly Muslim. I think that's what it was, 15%. And they were saying this is unconstitutional to start an official governmental business with a prayer. It was incorporating prayer into the business of government. And I heard this lady was opposed to it because they had been doing it for like 36 years, and that's sort of like their argument. Like, we've been doing this for 36 years, and nobody's complained yet. And one lady even had the audacity to say, like, so what? It's only 15% of the population. She's like, last time I checked, this is America. Majority rules. And I was like, like record scratch. Like, no, that's not the case. You don't get it, lady. Majority does not rule.
In her America, it does.
It was just she displayed her gross misunderstanding of American government.
Yeah, that's awesome. Majority rules. They're subhumans anyway.
Yeah.
God.
It was really bad, and I just I get so aggravated.
Yeah.
But there you go, there you have it. And I think that was in Michigan. I have to look that up.
It probably was. 15 sounds low for Michigan though, but who knows? It could have been like Hamtramck or something like that, like not Dearborn. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things, and this is going to lead us right into what we want to talk about today. Anyway, the Christian majority in government, at least the percentage of the Christian majority that wants to bring religion into everything, they tend to have these blinders on. Like if it was, I could maybe understand if it was like 0.5% or something like that, something stupid. I mean, I think religion has no place in government anyway. But the reasoning of saying you have people who aren't your denomination amongst you as the reason, rather than saying, hey, this is a secular democracy and we don't want to mingle religion and government, because that's what it says in the founding documents. I can understand maybe if it was like 0.1% or something. But 15% is no small percent. That's big. That's a really big percent.
Yeah. Well,
when you break up the U.S. by denomination, non-religious and irreligious is 16%. According to the last poll, that makes that percentage is larger than any other single denomination, with the exception of Catholics.
Well, yeah, I mean that's
Catholics are like 25.
You can get to those numbers depending on how you slice the pie, and I understand that, but the this woman, like, she lost the big picture when she said majority rules. It's not about the majority, and in fact the whole Constitution is written to protect minorities and to prevent the tyranny of the majority. Because now I agree, like you said, Ken, if there's like a small percentage, like, it's a balancing act. You have to make sure that minority's views are equally represented in government alongside with the majority.
What I think what happens is people like her and a lot of people get confused when they make that statement. Because face value, no, it doesn't work that way. But I think where that idea comes from is people think, well, when a majority wins a vote in our democratic society, then that's the direction that we go, whether it's politicians, elections, whatever. And I think at face value, that's where people get confused with it when they say majority rules, because in elections, yes, that's how it works.
No, it doesn't.
But huh?
And that's not how it works.
Well, I'm just saying that the one with the most votes.
No, that's not how it works. That's why we have the Electoral College. You could have a.
I see. Yeah.
That's
but
why.
What I'm saying is, like, the reason that thought continues to live is because people look at it in that sense. They think, well,
right. Well, that's an incorrect perception.
Yes, but I'm saying that's where people get that.
Right. Well, if you tell somebody on the street today that you could have an election where the president wins the popular vote, he has the most votes, and yet loses the election based on electoral votes, that blows people's minds.
Yeah.
And even people will say, like, oh, well, if he wins the most popular votes, then he should win the election, but it doesn't work that way. That
only works in high school.
Yeah. Yeah. And the whole purpose of the Electoral College is to make sure that those minorities, as best we can, that that the lone farmer in the Midwest, his views are represented as well as or equally as the people living in, say, New York City or a large populous area.
Yeah.
And it's not a perfect system, but it's the one we have, and it isn't majority rule.
Yep.
Like, in fact, that's one of my new pet peeves now. As soon as I hear anybody talk about majority rule, I get all.
But you know what? In situations like this, we need somebody to come out and speak the word of truth and set us straight. And when there's only one person that I think of that could actually save us from this messed up view of the world, and that's Kirk Cameron.
You need a picture of him with, like, that arms akimbo, the faraway look, a red cape.
Well, no, I like the picture that he has on the poster of his new movie, where he has one hand on his hip. He's walking through D.C. with a flag under his arm. I love it.
Well, Ken, tell us what this new movie's about.
Okay, so Kirk Cameron, our lovable, growing pains star / evangelical. I don't know what to call him. He ever blows me away with things he does, but I kind of want to see this movie. So he's putting out a movie. It's coming out on March 27th. This movie called Monumental: In Search of America's National Treasure.
It's only in selected theaters.
It's going to over 550 theaters. I really hope it's going to be out here in LA. I don't want to give him my money.
It's here in Norfolk, so I'm sure it's going to be in LA.
Is it really going to be
it's
in Norfolk?
at MacArthur Center.
Oh, God.
It's probably going to be at 550 theaters in LA.
It's the live presentation of it.
Yeah, so I want to see that. It's but what it is, it's not him walking through DC. It's him walking through. He was walking by the. The
statue of the Faith. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and it's this monument that I might add was erected in the 1800s, essentially commemorating what the Pilgrims, the Mayflower Pilgrims, established in Massachusetts with their colony there. It seems like the whole crux of the movie is, and this is what evangelicals do, is they look at founding documents, and if you can't tell, I'm doing big air quotes on this, and they always come up with the Mayflower Compact, which was a religious document, because the Mayflower Pilgrims were religious. However, the Mayflower Compact had zero influence on the Declaration of Independence, zero influence on the United States Constitution.
But they got a monument.
Well,
yeah.
So, from what I gather, like the gist of Kirk Cameron's movie is he's going to help America. America, we're in trouble. We need help. And
for the children, he says.
Right, and he says he's got a statement where he says that what did he say?
What is it?
He's searching for the real treasure of America, and he says, because I suspect forefathers knew we were a forgetful people and that someday we would lose our way as a nation, so they left us a map that would guide us back to the source of America's success. And so in this movie, he's retracing the Plymouth landing and looking at the establishment of America to find this hidden treasure, and he finds it, and
but it's not hidden,
right. But so,
nor is it a
spoiler
treasure.
alert: his big national treasure that he finds is the Pilgrims Monument in Plymouth.
Yeah, and it's really, really funny because there's one in Provincetown, and I'm pretty sure that's the one he's walking in front of, which I find hilarious considering his recent quote that homosexuality is unnatural, detrimental, and ultimately destructive to the foundation of civilization. And if anyone's not familiar with Provincetown, Massachusetts, it has a very, very high homosexual population.
Well, maybe that's
like
distracting.
really high. I think that's I snicker at the irony of it. This is what pisses me off, because I was watching the trailer and like he's getting like a history lesson about it. And he's like, oh, you know, like when in history, and he talks about how like he's kind of ignorant of history. It's like, yes, you are ignorant of history, because the Pilgrims aren't the forefathers. They aren't the founding fathers. Those are two separate events separated by almost 200 years. Like,
well,
the Pilgrims
I'm
landed,
just fascinated.
and then most of them died.
Yeah.
But they
You
were
know,
magical
like-
people. They knew what we were going to do in today's time. That's why they left the map. That's why they created these all magical powers to keep our nation as wonderful it is. It's amazing.
And the thing is, like, the Pilgrims landed, and at first they all died of the winter. Then they died from, you know, clashes with the indigenous population. Then they were dying because they were killing each other. You know, like in Massachusetts, I believe it was until 1996, it was considered legal to shoot a Rhode Islander when they crossed the border, and that's because within the inhabitants of Massachusetts, who were incredibly like divisive, even amongst themselves, they had a very strict view of religion, and anyone who strayed from that got outcast, or later in 1692 hanged. They cast off Roger William from their colony, and he went and started Rhode Island, or Providence Plantation. And so it was okay to shoot them because they were different, and that's not what the United States was formed on. You know, when you have Thomas Jefferson's letter to the Connecticut Baptists, like he's talking because they were upset that, you know, Episcopalians were going to become the state religion, and he's like, no, there's not going to be a state religion. You know, because look at our history. Whenever we allow religion to dominate one area of government, it just turns into a bloodbath. You know, and I mean, the difference between the Puritans living in Massachusetts and what Roger William was doing was so minute. You know, the difference between the Puritans and the Anglicans, so minute. You know, like technically they're both Protestant Christians.
Yeah, I'm also having a problem with Kirk Cameron's math on this one too. So the Mayflower Pilgrims was 1620, and then the American Revolution, founding of America, 1776.
156 years.
This statue was built 1889. Like, where are the forefathers in this statue at all?
They're in the Bible and the star that woman's holding.
Yeah. This is hundreds of years after the fact, and it's even 100 years after the founding of America. And so, what forefathers are putting their treasure map in there? I don't get his math. I don't see how that works out.
Yeah.
It's too far away.
It seems like the Da Vinci Code for evangelical Christians.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like. You know, throw in a few monuments. You know, get an albino monk in here, and it's the Da Vinci Code, but for evangelical Christians. It's nonsense. You know, it's one of the things where he's trying to pull together things that are unrelated and make it seem like this crazy adventure theme. You know, he's going to go on this trip across I don't know Massachusetts, which only takes about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I know. I grew up there. I've been to this monument. I've been. He goes on to the Mayflower. I've been on the Mayflower. It's cool. It's neat. It's you know.
The beds are comfortable, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Statue
He's
was
like, this is
erected-
kind of comfortable. Yeah, stay on it for a couple months while you're sailing across the Atlantic.
I mean, that statue was up
and then
like
get scurvy.
250 years after the Mayflower landing.
What's
Well, it
that?
takes a long time to build a statue.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I guess the woman personified on the
Faith.
statue is faith, and she's pointing to God.
Holding
Ha
it- but she has a Bible in her hand.
That's it.
Yeah, of course she does. I mean,
That's all we need.
you know, you're talking about pilgrims, Puritan pilgrims. It wasn't George Washington on that boat, you know. It wasn't Thomas Jefferson.
And why are they putting so much? Excuse the I guess the pun, but why are they putting so much faith in a statue? Do they not understand the
Pilgrims
history? What do they people not understand the history of why statues are built? It's not. I mean, sure, it's to honor and whatever, but it's mainly political. I mean, like the Lincoln Monument, political for the Republican Party. I mean, at the time that it was done, it was. I mean, but I'm not going to go into that. But just because there's a monument of something does not mean that there's actual historical, fact
Value?
Value. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But like I said, he's going to try to draw together all these unrelated things, and he's going to make a point. And it's interesting because I was reading an article in the Daily Mail 2 days ago, and it was talking about how, and I think this totally works with this, democracy brings out mediocre candidates for office because
Not this
most
year.
people just aren't smart enough to discern good policy from bullshit. And this is a big pile of bullshit. But most people don't have the critical faculties to look at it and be like, that doesn't make sense. So he's going to, I guarantee for the people who are already on his side, they're going to be like, yeah, that's right. Mayflower Compact and this monument in Massachusetts that was built, 200 years after the fact.
Well, this is just then another extension of the response and the thing that happened in Florida that was similar to the response with Gingrich. And this is just the next step in the process of trying to spread this. Our forefathers were hardcore Christians and we have to be a Christian nation. This is just an extension of that.
Yeah.
And silence hits.
So with the political process and watching the Republican nominations get hashed out, which is a really ugly and frightening process. I don't know if I should be afraid or not, but it looks like there's this portion of the country that is pushing for a theocracy. I mean, Rick Santorum is a theocrat.
Yeah, of course. Then that's what they want. I mean, that's what Christian nationalism is, and you have it. It's very blatant
Kirk
in the
Cameron is a
in
theocrat.
the far right. They want to do away with the Bill of Rights and insert the Decalogue.
I think
Rather
Kirk
have a 10
Cameron's just
Commandments
the
than
tool.
the first 10 amendments to the Constitution.
And I mean, how could he wants to? I mean, these people they want to impose their religiously inspired laws on people, and the very monument itself says it stands for civil and religious liberty.
Yeah.
Yeah. But don't you know?
Unbelievable.
I mean, the way they view religious liberty is allowing their religion
To do whatever
it likes. They don't see religious liberty until their denomination has religious control.
So speaking of, in Kirk Cameron's movie, one of the guys that he interviews is this guy's great. His name is David Barton, and he's founder of Wall Builders.
Oh God, Jesus Christ!
So Barton has a spot in this
David
movie,
Barton.
and Wall Builders is an organization dedicated to tearing down the separation of church and state. And what he says is he maintains that when they said that there's a wall of separation between church and state, that wall only goes one direction. It prevents government from interfering with church, but allows the church to influence government, and that's how they interpret it.
That's not the way it all works.
And this guy Barton, I looked into Barton, and he is a fucking joke. This guy's good.
I love this guy.
Yeah, he's a pastor who likes to play fake historian.
Oh, but it gets better.
He's come up in our discussions a few times. When we were talking about Newt Gingrich one time, I know I was talking about him because it pisses me off that he's such a bullshit artist, and he likes to play fake historian. And then you have people like Newt Gingrich who just fucking love him. Like Newt Gingrich said that every kid should be forced to listen to him, and I think he said actually at gunpoint. Which blows my mind because Newt Gingrich is an actual historian. Like he has a doctorate degree in history,
at least
he buys into this like nonsense that David Barton, Christian exceptionalism, like there's no such thing as separation of church and state. Like I wish we could resurrect the dead just to put an end to it and just like raise up Thomas Jefferson and be like, Thomas Jefferson, what do you think of separation of church and state? And he would be like, abso-fucking-lutely. Like,
well, the thing about
he would say religion is nonsense anyway, so leave it out of politics.
The thing with Barton is he describes himself as an expert in historical and constitutional issues. However, he holds no formal credentials in history or law. Like he doesn't have any credentials. I mean, at least Gingrich has did the work somewhere and earned a PhD from not a diploma mill college like the other guy we were talking about.
Oh, who was
what was that guy from the International University of Vanuatu or someplace, the island nation of. Anyway, Gingrich has like a real degree anyway.
Vanuatu. Yeah.
Yeah,
he did his. Newt got his degree from Tulane University.
So, and like now I'm seeing this common trend among a lot of these evangelicals because this guy Barton, he in his early life, he was where did he go? He went to a school in Aledo, Texas. And he got his bachelor's from Oral Roberts University in 1976. And then it says he taught math and science and eventually became principal at Aledo Christian School. And Aledo Christian School is a school of fewer than 100 students, which grew out of Aledo Christian Center, a non-denominational charismatic church started by Barton's parents. So, like I'd be like, oh yeah, I taught math and science, and then I was the principal of this school. No, you didn't. Your parents gave you that job
because you were moving back home or something. You're like, no.
That's like Kent Hovind, who said he taught high school science for however number of years. And what he really means is he homeschooled his kids.
So how we were looking at the degree from the Vanuatu University, and then what was the New Apostolic Reformation School that had the degrees in profit and that we're looking at, right? Fuck paying $6,000 for a diploma. No, we'll just start our own school.
We've mentioned this before.
We'll just start I'll give myself a degree.
I have to give it to you.
I remember you were texting me all the information about that school in Vanuatu.
I'll print it out today.
While I was at the airport. And I was looking it up, and I remember taking you back. I was like, I really just want one of these like diploma mill degrees just for fun.
I'm sure you can
I can't justify giving them money for it.
But I'm sure you can find a template online for it.
The elegant solution, and this seems to be what everybody else does, is they just start their own school.
Yeah, right.
It's funny because we were talking about this with demonology. We were talking about this on the Talking Dead show, and Paul and I were talking about getting a degree in demonology. And then we were like, wait a minute, we can just give it to ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, like there are things where, there are times where people will give out like honorary degrees, but it's very clear that it's an honorary degree and has no accreditation.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Price and one of his old colleagues started something called the International Institute of Higher Criticism. And what it involves is you get books, you read the books. There's tutoring sessions with Dr. Price, and at the end of it, he gives you a certificate saying, congratulations. But it's up front like, yeah, this is a meaningless piece of paper.
We should really start our own school.
Yeah.
Because that, like, when I saw that guy was, principal of this, Christian academy that his parents founded.
You're like,
Coincidence?
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
not.
Hey, who was it that we talked about last week where after further research they worked for Harold Camping, and
That's the guy from Galileo was
yeah,
wrong.
That's right.
That's the guy that went to Valenu University or whatever that place.
Yeah, that's the guy who went to that school. Yeah, that is incredible.
I love
it. I love how things
inbred
come full circle like that.
this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I poked around on the David Barton website, the wallbuilders.com or whatever it is. Is it wallbuilders.com? But he has he had a great article posted on there called Yeah, I know. I should have had it ready.
Yeah, it's wallbuilders.com. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
He had it was almost funny. Oh, he has a big article on the Wall Builder site called Unconfirmed Quotations. And it's exactly what you were talking about what the evangelical right does, is they have all of these supposed quotations from famous American, founding fathers, George Washington, Patrick Henry. I didn't see any Thomas Jefferson, but I did see Benjamin Franklin on there. And it was stuff that Barton's organization can't confirm that they said, but they think that they've thought this way and probably said it anyway. And it's like...
Yeah. Yeah.
Bob said he was going to give me $1,000.
He probably should have.
Right.
It's funny because that sort of mentality dates back to antiquity, where you have a lot of like crazy pseudepigrapha in scripture around it. Like there's this one epistle, and it's between Jesus and this like king, I think it's like King of Media or something like that. And the rationalization is most people knew it was fake. It was like, man, if Jesus didn't say that, he should have. So I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah, it's exactly how it goes.
So,
Yeah,
I'm glad that carries over into the 21st century. That's great.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I looked in there. So I read through that unconfirmed quotations, and they do have a couple of instances where it's sprinkled with like 2 or 3 occasions where the unconfirmed quotation is actually eventually confirmed. But in all the ones that were actually confirmed are entirely secular. There's no religious statement in there. So I think it just seems like they wrote it and they're like, oh, well, we're going to sprinkle it with some things that, we say were confirmed that are of a strictly secular nature, because all of the really crazy religious stuff just remains unconfirmed. Like, well, they should have said it anyway.
Yeah.
It's really bad. And they
should have said it. Too bad they didn't.
Yeah, right. They should have said it. And the whole thing is they make this argument at the beginning about how their method of arriving at these conclusions is more rigorous and scholarly than a primary source method. How do you get more rigorous than a primary source?
Because there's anything more rigorous than a primary source. See, like that's... Oh, God. I
think his head just popped.
Like, I don't know what to say about that. Like, it's such nonsense, but it relies on the fact that most of their audience has no clue what the fuck they're talking about anyway. And so you can spew bullshit so long as no one can catch you on it. So you just rely on the fact that your audience, your primary audience, doesn't really know anything about it anyway, and therefore can't critique you. And all you have to do is just slander and libel the naysayers. It's like, oh, they just want to, destroy God, and they want to take away your faith. It's like, no, people who are just calling you out are saying, no, that person didn't say that.
Yeah.
So
they also have there was an article all about there was like an attack on President Obama about.
Of course there was.
He was the president most opposed to religion in the entire history of the country, and they have all of these examples about how like he didn't mention the Bible in his Thanksgiving prayer, and
yeah, it's dumb.
And
let me share a story with you, because I love it. George Washington attended church with his wife for many years. But every time it would come down to communion, he would leave just before. Just before the Eucharist was delivered, he would get up and leave. And the pastor there confronted him one day about it. And this whole thing's recorded as the pastor relaying the story. So you can be sure that it's not necessarily biased. This is the pastor recording it to someone. So the pastor confronted him, and I'm paraphrasing. He said, Mr. Washington, it's very disruptive when you get up before the Eucharist is served. It sort of disrupts the whole thing. And George Washington said, you know what, you're right. I understand. It's incredibly disrespectful. I shouldn't do that. It is disruptive. And that was the last time George Washington ever attended church. Like, that was it. He was like, instead of not getting up anymore before the Eucharist is served.
But the real question is, did he mention the Bible in the Thanksgiving?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's
Thomas Jefferson not only like literally cut down the New Testament to
he rewrote it.
the sayings of Jesus. Making
Barton has
cutting out anything that was historically credulous or miraculous or supernatural. He cut it all down, so it's literally just Jesus talking. So it's a little more than a philosophy book, and kind of just a pamphlet at that. But he also owned a Quran. Oh, gasp! And discounting all of the crazy things he used to say to John Adams about religion and how much they used to joke about how religion was dumb. He was the first president to be assaulted for his lack of religiosity. They called him not just a deist, but they actually labeled him an atheist, which may or may not have been true. I know when he was ambassador to France, his daughter was going to join a nunnery, and what he did is he resigned as ambassador of France, so they could both leave.
Well, when you think about the founding fathers, right? I mean, that was a long time ago. You have to think about them in the context of the world in which he lived, and even they agreed that religion has no place in government. And
yeah.
Would those men be religious men today? Absolutely not. They would be men of science and letters. They would not be. Yeah,
a lot of them were men of science and letters. You're talking about Ben Franklin.
Oh, I know.
And Thomas Jefferson. Like famous polymaths. These are some of the most brilliant men of their age. Thomas Paine, who had a hand not just in the American Revolution but the French Revolution as well.
Right, but what I'm saying is that any religion or theology that they may have held then certainly would not be the case today.
Oh, definitely.
Because we live in a modern time with modern world in a naturalistic worldview.
Yep.
I mean, those guys were just getting a taste of the natural worldview, and they would have certainly embraced it today, knowing then what we know now.
Yeah, definitely.
Or at least I maintain.
And it's saying that
but you're doing
they set up a secular democracy. or a secular republic, essentially.
Right, and I am
leaning.
doing what I'm saying that the other side is doing, like
Yeah.
saying, oh well, he would have said this or he should have said this. However, I'm not basing it on policy, and it's just speculation. I'm not using it to.
You're not pushing an agenda with it.
No.
Well, I understand, but
I'm not
I just
using
wanted
it as
to.
a basis for my that legislation I want to pass.
Yeah.
It's for me. It's just speculation.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out the difference.
But
No, I agree.
If you look at the
Fair enough.
if you look at the confirmed sayings, that is definitely what you could draw from it. If they were alive today, they would still stand behind a secular republic.
Right.
A concept which today is way less crazy than it was in the 18th century.
And
Like a secular government, that was unheard of in the 1800s.
yeah.
Unheard of.
And even if you even if I spend my whole life as a staunch atheist, if I were to write down all of my thoughts and feelings and be as letter writing as people were then, because people wrote lots of letters, kept journals, things like that, I'm sure that you could quote mine those and find some instance where maybe I have doubts or maybe I express a theology, maybe just questioning it or whatever, and you could easily quote mine that. But again, the mountain of evidence is arrows all pointing in the same direction. Once again.
Well, yeah, you can quote mine anything. They quote mine, Darwin to show that even he had doubts about evolution. Like, no, he didn't. For him, every arrow is pointing in the same direction.
Well,
But,
even if he did have
you can
doubts
quote mine
about
anything.
his
There's
theory,
nothing wrong with having doubts.
he resolved them.
Well, there's nothing wrong with having
Yeah.
doubts. You can have doubts in something that you believe in, and I think that's healthy because it keeps the thought process rolling with it.
Well,
If you no longer
Definitely,
doubt what
definitely.
you believe in and you just strictly believe it, it's no longer growing. It's no longer being challenged. It's just stagnant.
Well, not only that, but when you look at somebody's journals or letters or writings, you get a glimpse of their mindset at that instant.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean how they felt or acted the rest of their lives. It's just that one moment in time where they happened to write it down.
And a perfect example of that is like if you have any of your stories that you had to write in high school or middle school that you've kept, or poems that you wrote a girl when you were younger, and you read it now and you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I've done that. I've read old stuff that I wrote when I was in high school, and I was like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it. It's I encourage changing of the mind.
Right. Right. But,
Yeah, no,
but-
that's I talk to people like that about that sometimes because like my siblings, I used to hold some pretty crazy ideas. I used to be fairly on the fence about the death penalty. I'm not anymore. I'm incredibly anti-death penalty.
Oh, this sounds
I know that hurts you because you're from Texas.
touche.
Death penalty down there is like just turn on the tap.
Yeah. We all have
Every time
in our
every time
houses.
you turn on a tap in Texas, you're actually electrocuting a prisoner.
That's true. I helped pass the law to make it for every home there will be an electric chair.
what?
Yeah. Or better yet, I used to be, growing up, I was raised a Christian. I'm not now. And that's because as you acquire new knowledge, you can think about things. And when you think about things, sometimes your perception of them changes.
Yeah.
It's called growth. And it's good.
Well, when somebody spends their whole life writing about I don't know, when somebody spends their whole life writing about atheism and a natural world, if one essay they write in junior high where maybe they're questioning it, you can't just hold that up and go, see how look, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
also a fine line that we
Exactly.
can't allow somebody to write something this week and then next week saying I don't believe that, I didn't say that. Like politicians in the presidential run now, they'll say something 1 minute and then say no, I no longer believe that, and they just said that last week.
Well,
we can't allow stuff like that to happen, even though it's okay to change your mind. You have to be conscious of manipulation and people trying to play the crowd instead of actually relying on their own true thoughts.
I think you're absolutely right. Like there's one thing there's a difference between pandering to a crowd and saying whatever you think will get you their vote, and that changes from week to week. Or, like, yes, this is my stand on an issue, and then a week later, well, it turns out this is why I considered it this way. Now I have new data, I have new information, and given that new information, I've reevaluated and changed my mind. That's how it should be.
Yes, but that is how people manipulate other people. Well, last week I didn't have the full information, so now I have the full information. You still have to be cautious about it.
I agree. I mean, there's a place and a time to take a stand, but there's also merit to reevaluating. I mean, I say all the time, like I reserve the right to change my mind at any time.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm also not making policy. And were I making policy, the process would be such that, okay, let's get all the information that we can together, and then we'll evaluate it and make a decision. Yeah. And if we happen to get new information, well, then maybe we'll change everything. But the point is, you get the best information you have at the outset. That way you make the best decision.
Yep. And with the best decision that is, we should end this show.
Is it that time already? Holy shit, an hour goes fast.
It does.
It does.
All right, everybody, go check out Kirk Cameron's movie.
I made the joke with Bob when I showed Bob the trailer to it, that all three of us should go to the theater. You go to L.A. and we'll go here. Since it's going to be live, we're there all at the same time, and we can do a show.
I'm wondering if I could go if I can rationalize spending the money just to go out of like research.
I have a free ticket, so
really?
but I don't know if it will work for that. But
I have a sense of morbid curiosity.
Yeah, that's what it is for me. I really want to, go. It's like a train wreck. You want to look, but it's going to be not pretty.
Well, we should make this non-religious life flyers and then go there and pass it out to everybody as they sit, and that would justify us going.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, Bob, why don't you take us out?
Yeah, but I want you to pimp next week's show a little bit.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay. Well, as far as it's going, next week we're going to be talking about some very interesting things, historical Jesus things. A new book that's coming out about the proof of an historical Jesus. Again, using big air quotes on proof, and we're going to have the return of a very special and erudite, learned guest to discuss that. So, if you go back and listen to the episode, I
just
Bob
say it.
name dropped.
Quit toying with us. Who is it?
Yeah. So
no,
we're getting to that time where we're going to start going back and revisiting guests and reinviting people on, which is pretty exciting.
Well, that's good.
Does that mean we're running out of things?
No, we're at the half. We're at episode 51 now, right?
No, it's not 41.
41. I'm pushing.
This will be 41.
Okay. We're almost to the 50 mark. We got to do something special.
Yeah. Did you happen to catch last week? Matt tricked me into the Eucharist. We were drinking. We were drinking beer and eating Girl Scout cookies, and he said, "Ha ha! I just fooled you. This is the Eucharist."
Well, you're going to heaven now.
Yay!
Quick, blaspheme the Holy Spirit so you can go.
I don't like that.
It's unforgivable.
I don't believe.
It's actually double unforgivable because it's in two Gospels. That's awesome. That's actually kind of awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it was fun.
I consecrated this cracker you just ate, the saltines in your soup,
Yeah.
are actually the body of Christ. That's awesome. All right. Well, yes, that's who we're going to have next week. Return of a special guest. Stay tuned.
Awesome.
Also, my book should be out. I'm aiming for within a week.
Really, that's good.
I need to have it published and out for sale before I turn 30. That's my goal. And I turn 30 in 12 days, as of actual today. Not. Everyone knows we record in the past.
Yeah.
So. Not future now, but now.
All right.
Yes, a little less than 2 weeks. Okay, so Bob wanted to take us
I'm
out.
turning the closing duties over to Jason
Oh, really? Okay.
because I forget all that stuff. All I can do is hold my hands like
Just
this
hold
and
your
hope
hand.
he puts the number in there.
I don't do that anymore. Just to recap, we're moving the broadcasting day on Fridays, so we're no longer broadcasting on Thursdays. It's Fridays. So if you have marked your calendar or anything, just know on Friday the show will be up. We're in the process of moving it, possibly doing a live show, probably fairly soon. But right now, stick with Fridays. If you have any comments or questions, please give us a call at 757-337-2195. Give us an email at nonreligious@zombie-popcorn.com. Visit us on iTunes. Listen to us there. Stitcher, and everywhere else. All the links to where you can find us is on zombiepopcorn.com. Please visit, comment, and thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Thanks a lot. Welcome
Thanks,
back,
everybody.
Ken.
Just got out here.
I thought I was a good Christian.
Jesus died on a cross. I go to church every Sunday. Just got out here. Then I read that Jesus died on a cross for a rotten hooker.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday. I'm a very religious person.
I thought I was a good Christian.
The very lies the serpent told to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel